everybody, and thank you for coming to my talk. I hope you like it. And if you don't, you at least are going to like my slides because it took like a hell of amount of work to do them. So, and I'm a backend engineer normally, so yeah. Today we are going to talk about the benefits of putting API platform tools in front of our APIs. So first, I would like to know one thing. Who is working with monolithic-oriented architecture at this moment? Can I see some hints? Oh, a few. And there are just a few more. And then who is working with API-centric applications? Okay, and who is in between? Yeah, that also happens. And maybe I see more hands raising than who has legacy code. Yes, it happens a lot. So with API platforms, you can also find some more time to knock down the technical debt that legacy code poses as well. So that's another benefit. But you will see when I'm going through my presentation. So first, well, this is content, nobody cares about this. So API-centric applications allow us to be open to the world for the business cases that we need to cover. And of course, you have like more than one entry point to your applications, which is nice, because then you don't have to repeat your code everywhere. And and you don't have just a single point, and you become more visible to your consumers. So, okay, but let's talk about some benefits of using APIs. These APIs simplify the application development, of course, and are essential for modern distributed applications. And they enable the systems to communicate between each other. They normally use a common language. We say this is the contract. And then they are accessible to diverse client applications. So this expands your business capabilities beyond monolithic applications. And of course, they facilitate these smoother migrations and transitions when you are migrating in between technologies. So, or protocols, maybe you are using SOAP and you need to expose a RESTful API and you don't have the time to migrate everything from SOAP rapidly, but you need to put that on the market. You can use APIs for that and an abstraction layer. But of course, nothing is perfect. I said there are going to be multiple entry points to your application. So yeah, I mean, there's something to care about. Your attack surface is expanded as well with that. So I have another question. Who thinks about security issues from the very beginning, from the very design phase when they are building APIs? Nice. So that's why you're here. So I'm on the good track. So this is not working. Okay. I think something is freezed. Oh, okay. Okay, let me introduce you to the OWASP top 10 API risks list that they made in 2023. This was the second iteration of this list. The first one was in 2019, and some of these risks got moved or integrated into other. So you'll find that mostly the first 5 are only talking about authorization and authentication and unrestricted resource consumption, which we are familiar with, DDoS attacks or service abuse or whatever. Then you have others that are in the second part, but they are not less interesting. I would like you to take special attention to the last one, because unsafe consumption of APIs is also something to care about. You're not only being consumed, you also consume other third-party applications, so you might want to take a good look on that on security matters. So what happens when you are not addressing API security right from the start? Okay, this is the 0-day loop of hell, because development teams are delayed by the security team because they want to check everything before uploading a single API to or product to the production environment. So continuous delivery is okay. It becomes an unreachable target. Bye-bye. The security teams feel the pressure because they are being a bottleneck to hit the production environment. So scalability is also an issue because you are slower building features. But the business part is that, okay, you had to push it. You had to push it. I'm not making to the market. So. And of course, we all get pressure because every other day we are finding new security issues, vulnerabilities that are arising. So your code is getting rapidly obsolete when it's in the production environment and it's unsafer by the minute. So, okay, this question I got asked many times in my work, which is, what having a web application firewall is not enough. It's not about replacing this. It's about adding up to this. I mean, there's this false belief that having a WAF solves everything. Not really. It solves a lot because the WAFs are getting better and having more tools to apply and more controls that you can do. But there's only a few folks that get to touch this, or they should be just a few folks to get to touch the WAF. So not if you are in an environment where you are like 200 developers and just 5 security folks, putting all the pressure to apply security in the WAF configurations, it can be cumbersome and maybe it's pointless. Because when it comes to granularity, the rate limit and the consumer quota requirements do not follow a one-size-fits-all approach. I mean, it's not the same. If you put rate limit at WAF, you're not going to put a different rate limit for each API. You don't know how many instances of your applications you have on the backend. You don't know and if you are talking about the consumer position, you don't know how much queries you want, requests want to receive from a certain consumer or from one another. So this is better handled at the API gateway level. So then authorization, authentication and pre-authorization, of course, they are better decided at API level as well, and you can use the API platforms to authenticate your consumers up to some extent, and also to work in many layers of pre-authorization before you get to the final resource. The payload also should be examined. WAFs have this capability of examining the request, but it's how big can a JSON input can be, or an XML, or what are the contents that I want to seek there? What is the depth of this? I mean, your particular resource might need a different setup for this. So you can also work with this in the API platform. Of course, attribute-based allow lists can be managed in bulk in a WAF, like you are allowing certain IP addresses and you're blocking the rest, or whatever policy you want to configure at WAF level. But maybe you are allowing one API, but do you allow it to access everywhere, or at least try to access to all your APIs? No, but you can control this at API platform. And of course, there are some settings of the WAF, that is the open-close settings when the WAF has some failure of something, because it's making a upgrade, something goes bad or whatever. And depending on the configuration you're working with, it can just open traffic and, okay, go serve yourself. Good luck if you reach the application level and you are good at validating and applying security at application level, and good luck if you're finding legacy code there. But sometimes it also can completely shut down the access to the requests. So nobody is going to consume it consume you, and you can have serious production loss, one way or another. So, okay, why am I telling all this? Okay, my role nowadays, I've been for 2 or 3 years in the role of a security architect, or I try to. I work at Allianz Technology. Maybe if you're familiar with Allianz, the insurance company, we are the company from the Allianz Group, which is dedicated to build the platform which our agents and our customers are working with to buy and manage their insurances. So I'm based in Barcelona. I'm in the Ibero-LATAM hub. This means that I'm working in a regional environment. So I'm working with Iberian countries and then also Latin American countries. Okay, what I do, I contribute to define blueprints and standards. I work with my other fellow architects, which are software or platform capabilities, and with a lot of teams in my company. And I design and implement security mechanisms to enhance product security, because when we are talking about product security, it's not just one API. One API is taking part of a whole product, which maybe involve front ends and batch processes or whatever. So, and also doing a lot of third-party integrations, either from the backend or from the single sign-on processes. Also, I try to raise awareness amongst my peers. We are using the Security Champions program in my company, which is, I really highly recommend that. So I'm also a proud music addict. I was a singer. Now this is my new way of giving concerts. So I think I'm really gonna like this if it all go well. And I'm also an amateur rock climber. This is my debugging place where I go, and when I'm overwhelmed, I go every weekend to the crag and just completely forget about everything, and then the ideas just pop my mind. So this is a perfect place to disconnect. But on the other hand, I'm a professional overthinker. Maybe that's what qualified me for the job, because I'm always thinking, what could go wrong? This is the right attitude for being someone working in security. And I literally became this lady this past month thinking about this talk. So I want to say thank you to all the speakers and everyone, and Thomas, you're there, you're one of them, that eased me down, cooled me down these past 3 days. So thank you, and the organization, because everything has been perfect. So, okay, let's talk about the solution. Of course, API platforms. This takes part of the defense in that concept, which is something from the military, but it transpired to the IT world. Okay, so it's like having an onion strategy. I like to think that the more layers you have, and you handle security, you take profit of every tool you have on the chain, since a consumer wants to consume your APIs or your applications or whatever you're exposing to the internet, until the very last part, I mean, at application level, it's the better, because if an attacker wants to come and steal your data, which are the real victim, at some point they can get bored and say, okay, I'm living elsewhere because this is too much work. And you already may know that there are really crafted attacks, like takes a vulnerability here, a tiny backdoor there, or whatever, and they can perform like end up being ransomware. So I mean, something really tiny. So the more, the merrier in this case. So this is how an overview of what a defense in depth mechanism architecture should look like. At the top part, you have the consumers, the possible consumers. You have web applications, either first party, like they are yours, or they are from other third parties. You have the Internet of Things, of course. Who doesn't have an Alexa at home, or a smartwatch, or whatever. Even your refrigerator now is an Internet of Things. So Also, third parties, we get third parties communications backend to backend a lot because we're an insurance company. We have regulations and people to talk with. Then you have the user devices, of course, mobile or your laptop or your tablets from which you install applications. And mostly when you are talking about web applications, some form of web applications get served the static content from the CDN. And if you are using mobile devices, you're getting probably your applications from the application stores, Android or Apple. And we've been I had this Thomas talk very first day about supply chain attacks. Sometimes tricky and poison code can get to those stages. So you may not know if you're either attacking yourself as well. So, okay, then you have the WAF, which is going to stay there, keep it. And then you add the API platform. And then you have your backend applications, which should have other controls in place, of course. And then you have the authentication and authorization resources, which could be yours. You could be trusted IDPs or whatever you have. And then you have your observability tools, who should be all along and across the way since the request starts until the response gets out, or the other way around if you are consuming something as well. So because that is the way of observing your platform and see if there's something tricky happening there. Of course, what are you protecting? Let me go here, this. You don't want nobody to enter this realm. It's your data. You're accountable. Your company is accountable for data. So if something happens to the data, you're dead. You can have reputation loss, production loss, of course. You can have fines, legal. I mean everything. It can be hell. Hell breaks loose if you are missing data and you don't know. So okay, what are API management platforms? There are like these are platforms that group different features which not only security people, but also developers can use and Confluence there to apply API security before reaching the application. So you have a centralized point as in the API gateway that it manages, it routes, and it secures API traffic. You have security policies that are enabled in these API platforms that you can use to control, the access to the APIs. You can control not to let your APIs being misused or whatever. And then you have in these policies, I'm not saying that you have to now program over the programming process, but you can also use there are nice features called shared flows, which is like the libraries of the policies. When you are using a set of policies that are equal and to all APIs, you can reuse them and just make them parameterable. So what is the configurable? Okay, you can put parameters into it to customize whatever you are wanted to apply. Okay, so there's also things that you don't see here, but there you have a trust store, you have key stores, you have environment variables, which are key value maps, and you can encrypt them, so you can handle credentials at that point. Of course, you have a developer portal where you can keep your documentation, and you are also preventing your APIs from what does this, what this API does. I don't know. Yes, you know that, and you can control everything. You can put documentation so you can provide that to your consumers, and you can enable testing tools for them to try out this, your API. And then, of course, you have monitoring tools as well at API platforms. You can connect them if you are using some observability tool that you don't have to change, you just connect it. Then, Of course, you can manage end-to-end API lifecycle from the very beginning when you define them until the retirement, the versioning, the testing, whatever. So, I say deployment, but it's the role of exposing them to the internet. These are some API management platforms. They come in different flavors and sizes. You just need, I recommend you to just check them and see whatever is better for your business requirements and your budget. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain you how you can use these API platforms. I was dry mouth. Okay, so so you can bring this extra layer in front of your data. So watch out, because this is a real life example. You are going to participate in this. Don't worry, you don't have to stand up or anything. But I'm adding a little bit of fiction because I may alter the reality. So first of all, let me bring back the WASP list, because I'm going to explicitly give 3 examples how to mitigate broken authentication, broken function level authorization, which I found this is very interesting. We're going to see 3 ways of managing pre-authorization, not using the token yet, but how you can route everybody to the right resource you want to expose to a certain consumer. You can do that. And then, of course, I like number 10 because we consume third-party applications. We should also apply what we call south to northbound connections, which are going outside and expecting a response. We need to control that as well. Okay, we are all the same in this example, third parties. We are going to see 3 examples of third-party integrations. I mean server-to-server communication. Okay, so you have the broken authentication case. Okay, when I entered yesterday to the, well, not yesterday, on Wednesday for the first time, I got to the front desk where the crew was here in pink. And I handed out my credential, which was my ticket, who said that I'm a speaker, what I am, but I had a credential. And they validated it and then I say, okay, you are who you say you are, and I'm going to give your badge to you. Now I know what you are and who you are, and you have your token, limited access for 3 days, okay? So, of course, there were the security people controlling that I didn't pass through the lane and go directly to the conference premises. So that's the monitoring. So how this translates to the API platform environment. The lanes identify an application or a consumer application group according to the presented consumer API keys. You can use API keys that I said my credential had, my ticket had this speaker. I'm a speaker, but what I am, not who I am, is not the same. It's not a credential. My credential was the actual ticket. Or they could ask for my ID, which I would, but this ticket was my credential in my case, okay? We are going to use this for the next case, the pre-authorization control. So the front desk is the API gateway. They are controlling how to handle, and they are handling the authentication process. They also you can also put traffic management to prevent brute force in the authentication process. Okay, you can limit the access to sensitive endpoints like authentication endpoints if you are using them. Then the registration is the authentication and authorization resources the API gateway interacts with. Okay, the credentials in this case with third parties can be a client certificate. You run the extra mile because it's mutual TLS. The consumer is presenting you with a certificate, and you're also saying, okay, you can trust me. We can all trust each other. And you can use that to identify as a credential to the third party. or an OAuth token. There are other methods, but if you're using a client certificate, maybe it's nice to just use it to obtain an OAuth token, and you don't overwhelm your third party with a lot of things. You have the APIs, the client certificate, and the token. Yeah, maybe you can simplify that. The control room is analyzing the traffic. Okay, I mean, so if you detect any unusual activities, you can know by analyzing your traffic. These transactions scale in the API platforms, you can look at the whole trace of the API request and examine everything that happened from the very entry point until they got the response from the backend server, actually. But if you want to know about single-page application integration, which is a little bit more complicated, that's why I didn't choose it to put in this presentation. You can scan the QR. It goes to BFF patterns, where it explains the token handler pattern, which is very interesting to hear about. I will share my slides, so if you're not getting now, I will move on. Okay, I'll leave some more. Okay. So the broken function level authorization, which brings me again to my badge, has said that I'm a speaker. You guys are, some of you are attendees or speakers or someone from the exhibitors. Yes, I see there. and then there is the staff, the crew, which are in pink. So this is the first level that we can apply of pre-authorization, knowing what we are. Just that. Okay, we are classified. Then, the IP keys, I repeat, should not be used as credentials. They are fixed values. They get manually rotated normally. But nonetheless, okay, just don't put them on the code base and don't put it on browser storage. Just, I mean, otherwise you will have to rotate them if you don't want anybody to use them. So API keys are also useful for tracking, managing access to the applications. You can apply additional security policies using these API keys. I mean, consumer quota, which we already talked about. The spike arrest, I mean, if you want to limit that your backend doesn't get killed because it's getting too many requests from all consumers. The consumer quota is interesting because if the consumer is exhausting their quota, their allowed number of hits of requests in a certain period of time, they get out. They don't get to do more requests or throttling. You can apply throttling and slow them down, but you're not leaving the rest of your consumers out, because your API is still good. It's still your backend is doing good. You are protecting it with that. You can also have request header validations. There is where you can also check the IP, and then you can use that for enable the second level of authorization, which are locations. Which backend services are we allowed to consume? I'm not talking about resources yet. I'm just saying in the API platform, you can define API proxies, and these applications will have we can discover these API proxies, and you do it by defining an API product, and you put all the target API proxies you want to include in a product. Okay, so in this analogy, the general access is that all of us can do all the great things. We can go to the exhibition hall, to the conference rooms and the workshops, but we cannot go where the crew goes. That's private access. We're not going to see that included in our product. So then these API proxies can also include input and output validation, which is interesting, and you can do that before deciding to send everybody to consume your resource. And you can also do parameter handler, message transformations if you are converting from HTTP to SOAP, to REST to SOAP or whatever. And then this is the third level that you can control from the API platform, which is what can we do? The allowed actions, once you are on those locations, I mean, in the proxies, you have the proxy endpoints, and I can control that the exhibitors can manage this. I cannot do that. I'm not an exhibitor. I'm not classified as an exhibitor. But I can give a conference, or if I had some meeting, which I didn't, I could give a workshop. And then I cannot repeat, I cannot do anything that the staff can do, but I can go to the gray areas, and we all here can do whatever the gray area is, the general access resources. So this is our resources and methods, because if you said give a conference is not the same as attending a conference. In this case, it's a post or a kit, you know. So you can also limit the visibility. So nobody makes an educated guess that if I could do a get, maybe I can do a post. And if you're not controlling that well in your backend application, you get exposed by them. So you are applying zero trust up and down the chain all the time. You're not trusting anybody. You're not trusting even yourself. So that's nice to have. In the end, this doesn't have anything to be with object or object property level authorization, because that's best determined at application level. If you get to access, I mean, I get to give a conference. Did I give Thomas conference? Probably they have to actually review my talk, and if I actually Thomas or not, you know. So, but I can give a conference. It doesn't determine which one. So, and then of course, protected resources will require specific authorization, and is usually in the form of an API, an access token. Sorry, water. Okay, so to summarize, as a speaker, I have my badge, which tells what am I. Those are the API keys. Then where I can go to all these locations. I can go to all these API proxies as a consumer. And what can I do is what resources and methods can I consume, potentially. I mean, the access token will determine everything else. And business logic also will determine other things. So the last but not least is unsafe consumption of APIs. In this analogy, yes, I know. I got, I'm Barbinet in this case because I got this, she's laughing. She is my ex-coworker. They baptized me like that because before being a security architect, I was writing scripts because I was doing a lot of DevOps work, and I was always writing scripts. And at some point, one of them started calling me Barbinet, and it sticked. So, okay, I'm giving you the conference, and you are attending my conference. And you came with your coffee and your sandwich or whatever you have taken from breakfast. It's 10 a.m. in the morning. So you're expecting that everything goes well. But I said, I talk too much. Okay, I can do that now because I'm entitled to talk too much, but I normally talk too much. So if you can, you know, like without any boundaries, like what are you going to accept, admit, this may happen. So at some point, I get a verbiage attack, and I start making no sense. I'm just bubbling, and you. I mean, if you try to follow me, maybe your provisions will actually train up, and your backend is gonna completely switch off. Your brain dead. Okay. So, but you can put this control in the middle, which are your boundaries, what you want to endure from myself. And you say, okay, if she starts talking too much or making nonsense, or I get bored, I will probably watch my cell phone, or maybe get up and leave, or just stare at the nothingness for the rest of the talk. So what is this translation? I mean, we can get attacked unknowingly from our third-party friends that we are asking information from, or requesting something. you want to validate and sanitize response data before your backend having to digest that data, that response data. What you can do, you can validate the content type. If we are talking XML or JSON, bringing me an XML or JSON or whatever I want you to give me back. Of course, you can apply regex protection. The WAF has these capabilities, and your application does have it. It's no harm on repeating them here, so it doesn't reach the backend. So you can avoid SQL injection, JavaScript, shell commands, whatever. And then JSON and XML thread protection specifically, you can validate the expected schema because you want to have a non-corrupted and parsable message. You don't want to overwhelm your backend with a massive chunk of information that it cannot process and delay the rest of the actions that you have to take in your application or crash or whatever. You can analyze the contents. You can also use other features that are Java callouts that you can put Java code or JavaScript code there to further analyze in depth, like maybe the doc type or whatever. But you can play with those. You have a lot of features to play with the security policies you can apply in API platforms. But other things that you should do, somebody said in one of the talks that IT people, we use should all the time. Yes, it's true. I think maybe it's my favorite word. Avoid blindly following redirection. Sometimes we get the 3xx response from the API we are calling, and that's another form of possible attack. We are getting redirected to an untrusted place. You can have a allow list and control the narrative. Okay, you are sending me at 3xx. I'm going to inspect where you're trying to send me, and I'm going to decide if I follow that redirection or not. You can do that with the API platform. So you can also manage timeout, reconnection, uptime control, so you cannot delay the response back to your backend to do whatever it was supposed to do next. Of course, you would like to apply rate limit controls. I mean, if you're calling a backend from a backend application to an external provider, maybe this API is applying costs. You have to pay for it. So maybe you want to consider applying rate limits so you prevent overusing it and having a massive bill coming into your company. Of course, this enables another thing that is a credential handling and governance and everything, because you don't have to scatter all third-party API consumption URLs all over your code base, and you don't have to worry, where do I put these credentials? Because in the environment, then I forget I have them, then I have to rotate them. You can centralize everything here because, as I said earlier, you have the if they are demanding you a client certificate, you can use the key store. And if they are demanding you to get a token, you can put them in the KVM, the environment variables, in an encrypted KVM section. So you can handle everything, and you can have the security teams also handle these credentials. So the developer doesn't really have to touch this information. You don't want to get these things messy, and nobody has to care about this if you centralize it there. And you also can cut everything. You can use this as a circuit breaker. You have a problem with that, you cut out the access, and you say, okay, I will cut out the access because this third-party application is giving me a problem. I want to study it first, and we just disable this feature just in case. And it's the same with the inbound connections. It's a circuit breaker. Okay, so summarizing, I just want to give some final advice. So in general, you can use API platforms, or it's just security posture that you might want to apply. So of course, to prevent all these API risks, You also work thoroughly on defining which authentication and authorization methods you need to apply according to your business case, what your business needs, and the level of data you want to expose. API governance, define API standards, use the AP first approach that would be cool to define the contract, and it helps you define everything else. The security policies you want to apply, you keep a proper inventory of your APIs so you know what you have, you know what version you are, you know when to retire them, or when they need some upgrade, update, or whatever. Apply threat modeling. This is from the very beginning of the design phase. You just get together. Normally, an architect will show up in these phases and really look thoroughly at all your flow, your execution flow, to find out which vulnerabilities you can find and how to mitigate it all along the way, right from the design phase. And you are going to be covered when you are doing your tests before reaching the production environment, and you probably will be extensively covered when you hit the production environment, and you won't have technical debt piling up, or at least a little bit less. Then, of course, infrastructure security is primordial, because you need to be safe against server-side request forgery or elevation of privileges. Then third-party risk management. If you're engaging with third-party connections, integrations, in some way or form, you apply the third-party risk assessment, where you have this extensive questionnaire, what the security posters or security control they have, just to assess if you are going to engage in integrating with this third party or not. But it is not something that you can just do today and then forget about it. You have to repeat it over time. It goes the same with threat modeling. It's something that you can apply from the design phase, but maybe when you have something that has been there for a while in the production environment, doesn't hurt to reassess it to see if there are some new vulnerabilities that you may consider mitigating. So, of course, last but not least, if you can begin or launch a security champions program, or just talk about security amongst your colleagues, that's always a win, because if we are all together, I mean, it's easier for everyone, and nothing gets swamped into work. And I mean, it's the drama. We have to push features to production so fast that we are assuming technical debt, because we cannot be bothered with applying all the security controls we have. But the security teams are, hey, no, wait, but we're just a few of us. If we work together, it doesn't have to be a police situation. We can collaborate from the start, and the more, the merrier in this. So, yes. Luckily, if you did all your homework, you're going to have them cry, and maybe they are going to go somewhere else. And, well, I'm 7 minutes left. I'm better at short distances, but anyway, if you would like to ask questions, be easy on me. But I hope you enjoy my talk, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.